So this is section 3-1, the distributive property. And example 1 is here on page 125. We're talking about the distributive property. And this combines adding, subtracting with multiplication. All right. So now as you're looking at both of these examples, if we were going to solve this, we could do this with PEMDAS. You could do parentheses, 6 plus 4 is 10, and then you would multiply by 2 to get 20, and that is the answer. You can do the same thing at the bottom. 8 plus 3 is 11, doing parentheses first, and then 11 times 5 is 55. But that's not what we're doing here in this homework, so you have to show this way. I do want to see this arrow drawn. Now, back here, the multiplication is in the back, but that doesn't change anything. You're still distributing the 5 on the bottom one and 2 on the top one. So, and you can do this in any order. You can do 2 times 6, which is 12, and then we go 2 times positive 4. 2 times positive 4 gives you positive 8. So that's why we write plus 8, since you got a positive number. And then obviously 12 plus 8 is 20, which we already said we knew the answer was. And you could have did that as 2 times 4 plus 2 times 6 in that order. Same thing with the bottom one. You can do 5 times 8 first, or you can do 5 times positive 3. Doesn't matter. So we'll do 5 times 8, which is 40. And then 5 times positive 3 is positive 15. Notice I keep saying positive because if there was a minus sign there, then we would take 5 times negative 3. And we would get a negative 15, which means we'd write a minus 15 at the bottom instead of plus. But we'll go ahead and finish this one. 40 plus 15 is 55. Example 2 on page 125. It's a word problem. It says a one-day pass to an amusement park costs $40. A round-trip bus ticket to the park costs $5. It wants us to write 2 equivalent expressions to find the total cost of a one-day pass and bus ticket for 15 students. And then part B says find the total cost. So all this is saying is in part A, we've got 15 students that we're grouping up that are each going to spend 40 plus $5. I mean, this ain't complicated stuff, guys. It's just writing it in the format that it wants. So that's one way to write it, and then we're also going to distribute to get the second way. So we would do 15 times 40. I'm just writing it out in a different format. And then 15 times positive 5. So we're going to add 15 times positive 5. So that's writing it in 2 different equivalent expressions. That's without even solving it at all. And now we'll go ahead and part B, we'll go ahead and solve. 15 times 40 we know is 15 times 4 is 60, and then you have an extra 0, so 600. And then we've got 15 times 5 is 75. So the final answer would be total cost $675 for 15 students. Next we have the distributive property for example 3. It wants us to do part A, which is 3 times x plus 1. Now this time we've got letters involved, so you can't just take x plus 1 and make it 1x. First of all, 1x is 1 times x. X plus 1 is x plus 1. They're not like terms, so you can't put them together, but we are going to use the distributive property. So we're going to have 3 times x, which is 3x, and then we're going to have 3 times positive 1. 3 times positive 1 is positive 3, and that ends up being the answer. 3x plus 3. You could also write it as 3 plus 3x, and then there's a couple other ways with the double signs you could write it. But that's the answer for A. And then we've got B is y plus 4 times parentheses, or in parentheses, times 5. Oops. And again, this is, you can't do y plus 4. That's not 4y. All right, they're not multiplying, they're adding, and they're not like terms, so you can't put them together. So you move past that, you go into multiplication, so we end up distributing the 5. Y times 5, or 5 times y is 5y, and then you've got 5 times positive 4, which is positive 20. Again, those are not like terms, so that's the answer. You can't make that 25y. Just like the top one, you cannot make 6x because they're not like terms. And then you could also write 20 plus 5y and a couple other ways with double signs. Last couple examples here on page 126. We're again using distributive property, but now you notice there's a minus sign in there. So you can't do x minus 1. Once again, same reasons. They're not like terms. So we move on past it and we do 2 times x, which is 2x. And then you have 2 times negative 1. 2 times negative 1 is negative 2. And notice what I wrote. Because it's negative 2, all I have to do is write minus 2. It means the same thing. Again, you cannot put 2x minus 2 together. All right, you're not going to make that 0x. You just leave it as 2x minus 2. You can use the distributive or commutative property though and flip this around. Oops, hold on. Negative 2 first and then positive 2x. So that's another way you could write it. And then again, 2 more ways with double signs. The part B here, negative 3 times n. Again, you can't do n minus 5. That's simplified. They're not like terms. So you've got negative 3 times n is negative 3n. And then you have negative 3 times negative 5. All right, I know that's tricky for some people. But negative 3 times negative 5 gives you positive 15. All right, I know that might be tricky or a little bit weird, but that's what you end up getting. And then again, you can always flip this around with commutative property as long as you keep the sign with the number. So 15 stays positive and then minus 3n since the 3 was negative over here. All right, so that's another way to write it along with a couple more ways with double signs. All right, guys, best of luck. Thanks for paying attention. Peace.